did the book.
We did this during the pandemic.
We did it during the pandemic with how many couples?
23.
23 different couples from all over the country that they actually wrote a chapter in the book. So it's not just us talking. It's, I think it was over 200 years of experience. And all the different chapters have different topics. And that was the Marital Code to Oneness book.
Yes.
And now we actually have the workbook that actually goes with that we figured we would start out 2025 with when it comes to talking about marriage and the marital experience.
And if you don't have the book, and if you know any of our authors, go to their websites and purchase Our Marital Code to Oneness from any author that you know that was a part of that that project. But if you want to get the workbook, you can go to Barnes and Noble online or walk into a store and ask for Our Marital Code to Oneness. They have it at Barnes and Noble. And if you want to get the actual book, this is the workbook, you can get in touch with one of our authors. We'll actually put in the description, we'll actually put all the names of all the authors. And if you know them, you can reach out to them. And if you know us, you can reach out to us as well for the book. But we really, really, really want to say that this part of the year is going to be to our married couples. However, if I were you and I was single and desired to be married, I would be trying to come and just be like a fly on the wall and kind of hear, like, before I get to that point, what I need to know. One of the things that we loved, our very first marriage retreat we ever went to, was with Frank and Bunny Wilson. That was our first, and Keenan and Sharnika Jones treated us, invited us. So we love you, Keenan and Sharnika. Thank you for introducing us to Frank and Bunny Wilson. But one of the things that they did that I thought was very unique, and I'm not seeing anybody else do it, they included the singles and the couples together. Because so many times, singles think that married people have it going on, and married people think that single people have it going on. But guess what? We all have growth areas and strengths. So we're going to practice that same model of, if you are single and seeking marriage, or if you're single and you are dating, please join us during these sessions as well, because it applies to you. You can ask questions, you can put your comments and your feedback. We still want you to be engaged, we want you to be involved. And so we just thank you.
You know, one of the things I appreciated about the way last year ended out, I think it was a few episodes that we did, we had more engagement from this type of format. And if that's what we're trying, different things to bring you the information that God has put on our heart to bring to you guys to invest in your relationships. So that's what our main goal is to do. And if you've gotten something out of it, I appreciate everyone who chimes in with the chimes or the chats and everything. We're reading those comments, and we're trying to incorporate that into the conversation. But if you have something to say, or comments, or even on topic or off topic, we welcome it. Be positive. You know, as we going into the new year, sometimes people just want to poke just for the sake of poking for whatever reason. Well, we like to say, hurting people hurt other people. But what we like to say is we are trying to make investments and bring value to you. So if you're not bringing value,
we're going to ignore you.
Yeah, simple as that. We're not going to even comment. We're not going to even say it, you know. And I've seen it where people in the comments in the chats usually jump on the other people who are jumping in there, who bring in the negativity. So be positive and try to be helpful.
Be inquisitive. If you want to know, we don't know everything, but we will share what we do.
Absolutely. So we are going to be talking about what today?
We're going to be talking about the difference between working in and on your marriage. This is in the beginning of the book. It's in the beginning of the workbook and in the beginning of the book. And it was something that I thought was an important thing to focus on, because throughout the workbook, it asks you questions. But I want you guys to understand why it asks you those questions. Because how many of you, sometimes you don't read the beginning of the book, you just start going into the first chapter. With our books, you don't want to do that. There are always going to be nuggets and insights into who we are and why we do what we do at the beginning of the book. So the beginning of the book, it talks about working in your marriage and working on your marriage.
Well, and I see here that Longball, I think that's Longball actually put in there. That leaves me out. Nope.
No, it doesn't leave you out.
Maybe you missed the beginning where we said you could be a fly on the wall, because this stuff is the information that is applicable to when you actually get married. So by all means, stick around, stay in and hang out. But the reason why we actually titled this chapter was when we first got married. I went back to work after we were got married, literally the week after. We were
21.
Yeah, we were very young, and Anybody in my married couples, how many people try to give you advice about when they find out you're a newlywed? Everybody just comes with a list of what you need to do and what you don't need to do. Well, that happened to me when I went back to work. My supervisor at the time, trying to be helpful, basically said, if you just want to have a good marriage, you just need to work on your marriage.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And I'm sitting there waiting for some kind of nuggets or some information. And that person gave me zero.
Nothing.
Gave me nothing. And I thought about that and I was like, well, you know what? What does that really mean, working in and on your marriage? And I took that, and that was literally at the very beginning of our marriage, and God sowed that into my heart, and I always kept that in the back of my mind as we have grown in our relationship of 36 years. We just celebrated our anniversary a couple weeks ago, or actually last week. And one thing that actually resonated with me was, well, work on your marriage. And that means applying some of the things that we're going to share with you today about what that actually means when we say work in and on your marriage.
And so I'm going to give you an example, because you guys know I like examples. Okay, so this will be geared towards females, but men will understand it too. Okay, this is a product. This is not a sponsored ad. This is just something I have used for years. This is it's actually a clay. It is actually a deep cleansing mask. You can use, it's bentonite clay. You can wash your face with the people, eat it. They do a lot of different things with bentonite clay. But this is, I have found to be a very good deep cleansing mask to clean your skin, right?
Right.
And then this is one of my favorite companies. Again, this is not sponsored. I like the lipstick bar. I like their lipstick, and that's how I can kiss Gil and not get makeup on him. But this is a concealer. So these are both for your skin, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this one deep cleans and leaves your skin, because Gil even says it feels so smooth, leaves it clean and smooth and with nothing on it. This, you can have bumps and pimples, and this covers it up. When we're talking about working on your marriage, we're talking about a deep clean and you really getting to know you. Mm-hmm. The areas where you need to grow, the areas where you need to change, the areas where you need to mature. Working on your marriage is just giving you a tool, communication, conflict resolution. So the difference between working in and on is the in is really about you, and the on is about the tools you use to make things better.
That's good.
So thank you. That's what the Lord gave me.
That's actually pretty good.
So that's what we talked today. We're talking about working in your marriage.
So the very first one that we actually talk about, Renee kind of mentioned it right there.
We're on. So it's you on.
Now I'm always remember this, y'all, when it comes to the clay. So when we say on, that's number one. That's number one, is actually that personal inventory. When you think about personal inventory of an individual, of yourself, if you've looked at any of the other videos in the past, all the videos we got out there and all the stuff we talk, or even if you've seen us teach live and things like that, we are always talking about assessments and inventory and doing some self-looking and doing some journaling. Always looking at you first, because before you actually get married, you're an individual. Just like Ball was just saying here, I'm single. I don't need, this doesn't apply to me. Well, it does, because at the very beginning, you're an individual and you're actually going to need to know yourself very, very well. That's where that personal inventory comes in, to where you want to go into your relationship having a clear, confident understanding of who you are as an individual first.
Yes.
Because what tends to happen, and it happened even in our marriage, because we all have experiences and things that we have come through, and past hurts and pains and all those things. Well, we're going to bring those into our relationship. Well, when you bring that into your relationship, that is going to always set you up for challenges that you're going to go through, because you have to work through some things prior to actually understanding who you are as an individual before you can ever become a couple.
And let's give you some examples of what that looks like. Okay, Psalms 139. Search me, O Lord. And so we need to be searching ourselves. We need to be looking to see, okay, do I know my communication style? Do I know, there are so many things. Do you know your love language? There's a new book that we're studying and we're reading right now. It's called The 5 Voices. Do you know your voice? There's so many assessments. If you get our app, Our Marital Code, if you go to the App Store and look up Marriage Mentors RICH RR, there are assessments on there so that you can search and examine yourself. you need to know what's your communication style, what's your personality, what are your likes, what are your dislikes, what are your strengths, what are your growth areas. You need to know all that about yourself, so that when you get with another person and they say to you, "Oh, you're short-tempered," or "Oh, you're very direct," you can say, "You know what? I am. And you know what? I think that's something." How does that make you feel? So if someone tells you something about you that you don't already know, it's very, very easy to get defensive and to start making it seem like it's the other person. We always say there's no such thing as marriage problems. They're only individual problems that you bring into your marriage. So if you don't take the time to get to know you as an individual, how are you going to really be able to receive or even work on getting to know the other person? If you're still trying to get to know you, how are you going to get to know this other person? So it's very, 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 very crucial that you take that long journey inward and you learn all these things about yourself that are going to help you to better understand you, and then begin to do some of the things you say you like for yourself, that you do that by yourself.
Absolutely. Proverbs talks about guarding your heart.
Mm-hmm.
When Proverbs 4 talks about guarding your heart, because when you don't do that, you have to examine your heart on top of that. When you examine your heart, this is where some of your past hurts, your past pains, some of the things that you have experienced throughout life actually comes up. And this is where you want to really take a deep dive into looking at those things, because anything that you don't talk about and work out, you're going to bring into your next relationship.
You don't talk about it.
You're going to bring it in. And when you don't understand, where is this coming from? Why does, when this person does ABC, I react with C, D, and E? Mm-hmm. And when you don't understand where is this coming from, that is going to set you up for challenges that you may not be equipped to do. But when you hang out with us, you read some of the books that Renee mentioned, you actually are working on yourself. That's where you become aware of the things and the challenges that you have had in your life that actually are going to set you up for success. Because the beginning of it is God put two people together. And even in your relationship, it's got to be three.
Yes.
You want to tell them about the
yes. Three? Okay, it's a triangle. So there has to be you and your person down here and God at the top. Because without God being a part of it, the things that you're expected to do, to be kind and patient and loving and gentle and slow to speak and presenting yourself to God, a living sacrifice, holy, all these things that it takes to make your relationship work, the two of you will not be able to do it. It's not until you get into a relationship with God as an individual that you begin to see. Because one of the things that we talk about, and we were watching, y'all know I love Dear Future Wifey podcast, y'all know I do, and we were watching the episode with Fawn and Keith Weaver, and one of the things that I said that just resonated with me so much was, it's amazing to me when someone says and articulates what you live. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I realized when me and Gil first got married, I noticed a pattern. Every single time I went to God about Gil, God would always say, well, what about you? Mm-hmm. And I remember I would go to the Lord about the girls. Well, they're doing this and they're doing that. And he said, how about I change you so that when they do what they're going to do, it doesn't affect you. And so one of the things that Vaughn said was, we have to have the mindset, and she just articulated, we have to have the mindset that I am not going to look at what happens between us as Gil. I'm going to look at what happens to us as me. When other things are bothering you, external things, we always say you really don't have it's not your temper is really a problem that's an internal issue. Mm-hmm. The reason why things bump you, they only push out of you what was inside of you. When you get married, marriage is the place where you're going to see the things about yourself that you never knew were there. And so that's not his fault, that's me. And so we have to go into relationships with the mindset is, the only thing someone can do is pull what's inside of me out. I need to find out where it came from, how did it get there, and change me. So we have to approach situations with the mindset that I only have control over me.
It's always easy to find the growth areas in others. Yeah. And seeing that the Bible talks about it in Matthew about remove the plank from your eye. You know, one thing that we have to focus on, especially when you're getting into another relationship, it's easy to identify problems. And just like Mr. Ball is just saying here, when that problem comes up and the person doesn't want to focus on it or doesn't want to respond to it in a way that actually says, you know what, we need to work on this. You know, that's why God partnered you in with somebody, and you're going to find that more than likely this person has some strengths in the areas that you have growth areas, and vice versa, because they are the things that God is bringing to you to help you get through those things. Because if not, they wouldn't be growth areas.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have any struggles. You wouldn't have any problems. Well,
and it's all about how you respond. Because if something, I gave the example about when I burnt the the fire outside, and Gil came and said, you know, in a marriage, in order for any relationship to have longevity, there has to be this one thing that is like a superpower, and it's called humility. We have to approach each other with loving kindness. And if you don't start off with that, because most people have it in the beginning. When they first start dating, you're so nice and kind and gentle, you don't want to hurt their feelings. But then the longer you've been together, the more abrasive and the less respect and restraint you have for one another. You have to have that same level of gentleness and kindness. And one of the things that me and Gil have as a rule is that I already know that if he's saying something to me, it's because he loves me. He wants to make me better. It's not because he's trying to destroy me or he's trying to hurt my feelings. And so there's some guidelines. Number one, God has to be at the center of it. Number two, you have to have humility. And number three, you have to understand he is here or she is here to have my back and to make me better. And sometimes a part of making you better means they're going to say something that you may not like. And so you have to prepare yourself for that. So I know how Gil is. I know how his mind works. Gil's very analytical. Gil is a thinker. He is a visionary. He's looking at the future. And that's not the way I operate. And so I had to learn how to say, okay, babe, I see how that could be beneficial. Whereas when I was younger, my thing was, and one of the things I came up with, you always blow out my candles. And that was my mindset, was that when I would bring him something big and I was excited about it, he'd always tell me all the things that could go wrong. And instead of seeing that as a negative, I had to see that as provision and insight.
You know, when you think about the relationships that you're in, you have to credit the person with having your back.
Yes.
You have to credit the person with the righteousness and the positivity that you're seeking, or you probably wouldn't be in a relationship with them. If you automatically gravitate to a negative aspect of this person who you are actually spending the rest of your life with and want to spend the rest of life with, and then you are already crediting them with undermining you or doing something negative towards you, you may have to do some more reassessing and reevaluating. Maybe there's issues that you have unresolved as far as trust issues or unrealistic expectations or things that you have brought into the relationship that this person had nothing to do with. It could have been from past experiences that you have brought into the present relationship, or even in your marriage, that you said, you know what, this person, I know Renee is never going to try to hurt me intentionally. I have to believe that from the very beginning, or we wouldn't have made it this long that we've been together. Because if your natural response is to always think that there's something negative brewing or something negative coming up, that this person is, as she said, I'm trying to blow out her candles, not because she doesn't want to celebrate, but I see it as protection. When you have this person, I think as a man, we naturally are we going to protect mode first?
Yes.
That's our normal default. That's just what we do. And when you do that, Renee has to think about, okay, he's not trying to hurt me. He's not trying to disappoint me. He's not trying to lower my fun meter. He's actually trying to see the things that, because I want her to be successful in the things that she's trying to do, but I'm thinking about the things that can become obstacles or could become hindrances to successfully accomplishing what it is that she set out to do. Because guess what? I'm trying to protect her from disappointment.
Yes.
So when you think about that, that is the focus and the goal that the man should actually, that's our default.
Right. And it's important to understand that when you get married, the two, it's called Our Marital Code to Oneness. The goal of marriage is for two different people to become one. And that takes three. That takes you, God, and the other person. But does that mean you become the same person? No. It means that I look at his strengths and I see them as a benefit, even though they may feel foreign to me, and he has to do the same, because there's things that I'm going to introduce him to that he may not have ever thought of, and he could dismiss it as, oh, that's not necessary. But a part of becoming one is realizing that everything about me is not right and great, and everything about him is not right and great, and everything about me is not broken and wrong, and everything about him is not broken and wrong. And so it's really understanding and knowing yourself, and knowing, I know my growth areas, I know my strengths, I know the things about me areas where I need to grow. And in a marriage relationship, and even in your friendships, that's what that rub is going to come from. And if your relationships don't make you better and draw you closer to God, then I would ask you to reevaluate the value of those relationships.
Absolutely. You know, one thing that we actually are bringing to you in this episode of our Saturday afternoon chat, or whatever you want to say, we're talking about, if you just joined us, we're talking about the marital code to oneness. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us on these Saturdays, because what we're trying to do is start out the new year working on even our relationship. After 36 years, we are still trying to work and figure things out. And that's what we are bringing to you guys, the things that we do on a regular habit and a regular daily basis, the tools and the skills to invest into you guys to actually say, you know what, make it your own. We're not telling you to do it verbatim, but we're telling you the principle and the guidelines of things that you need to be thinking about as you navigate this thing called marriage. Because it is, bring it up to point number 3, it is spiritual warfare.
It is. And I think that's something that's so important for people to understand. That's why God ordained marriage. And so therefore, he is the only one that has the power to protect and sustain it. So if he's not a part of it, that's why the divorce rate is so high. Because we go into something that God created and we don't want him to be a part of it. We say, well, that was good for my parents and my grandparents, but you know, I got this new thing going on, and I'm worried about vibrations, and I'm worrying about the
Bible says there's nothing new under the sun.
We have got to let the Lord be the head of our life, the Lord be the head of our relationships. Because if we don't, we will allow ourselves and media, and you got to hit that, babe, because if not, it's gonna cut the volume off. It's important. I don't know if the sound went out or not, but we have got to let the Lord be the head. It'll come back on. Okay, YouTube, come on back on. I wonder if it's still filming, or how long do we go?
23 minutes, and it stopped.
Did it?
Yes,
No.
Why is it on 1 minute? And
there we go.
We just had a hiccup.
Sorry.
Boy, we were just going to hit that button to say, oh man, we went.
No, we didn't.
We still here, NW. We still here.
Sorry, we're here. And so,
can you hear us, NW? Put a thumbs up or thumbs up.
Give us some hearts.
If you can still hear us.
Can you hear us? Let us know.
Hopefully you're still there, but we're just going to keep going.
Yes. Okay, so we need to understand that marriage is something that was ordained by God. And in order for marriage to work, it takes 3. And in all of your relationships, it takes you and that other person and God. Because let's just be honest. We're living in a time when people's emotions and anxiety and past pain is leading them. They're being governed by that. So if we don't allow the Lord and the fruits of the Spirit to govern us, everyone you come in contact with is going to be in a bad mood and have a bad attitude. And so you have to make a decision that you are not going to be that person. That you're going to search me, Lord. Because I don't believe that, when people talk about, I have road rage. No, you had bathroom rage, kitchen rage,
grocery store
rage, church rage. You have to really ask yourself, why does that make me so mad? Why does something as simple as, I can remember something as simple as when, I remember when Erin was little, she had this big thing of barrettes and it fell over and I lost it. And the Lord was like, now she's like 2, I can understand her having this temper tantrum, but why are you so angry inside? We have to ask ourselves, why am I so angry inside? Why am I so on edge? Why am I so easily offended. And so it's important that we examine ourselves and that we look at ourselves. And sometimes, other than just, we need Jesus, we need community, we need therapy. Some of us need to see a trained professional. Some of us need to have someone to help us walk through the pain of our past. We'll tell you what we do with couples. We help them with community, support, tools, accountability, and assessments. If we assess and go through working with you and we realize that there are some things that you need to see a professional therapist, we do not have any pride in saying, hey, what you need is beyond our skill set.
Yep.
So we're coaches and mentors. We are not therapists. We are not psychotherapists. We are not counselors. And we are very comfortable and secure in the vein that we are called to walk in. And that is where we will stay. And you won't pull us into or drag us into an area that we know there's no grace on our life for.
Again, if you just joined us, we had that little hiccup in the video for a quick second, but we're talking about working in and on your marriage.
No, in today. The next week is on.
So we're talking about in and on your marriage, and this is
in deep. Okay.
This is from the Marital Code to Oneness, the actual book that we did. This is the workbook, and we're just sharing this with you. We invested in our singles the last, what was it?
4 months of the year.
For the last 4 months, we talked a lot about the singles things that singles actually go through. If you want to see what those videos are all about, go back to the channel, check out those things. We're talking specifically to the singles and about those things. NW checked in here and he was like, this doesn't apply to me. Well,
it applies.
If you want something specifically tailored to singles, go look at that. Those videos they're out there.
And you can get the book from Barnes & Noble. It's called The Singles Blueprint for Dating and Marriage. It's at Barnes & Noble. You can get it online at Barnes & Noble. And so now we're talking about Our Marital Code to Oneness,
right,
which is also available at Barnes & Noble. And we're going to put the names of the authors for the other books in there. I want to share something. I want to go... you want to?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to share something. So if you guys watch our video from our trip to Houston, we did the unboxing yesterday, and I thought it was so... It made me sad because Gil was really disappointed because
it was just shinier than I thought.
It was not as shiny as you thought.
Yeah, that it was going to turn
because
out.
When
I know you're probably saying, "What are you talking about? This shiny thing?"
Okay, so I'm going to show you. Okay, so he was disappointed with the way it looked, and so if y'all know me, I am crafty, and so I said, you know what, baby, it's okay. I'm gonna make him look better. So
what we did was, if you see, go check out the video. Renee did it. Was it a short yesterday?
I did the long video. And then
the long video. But anyway, we were doing date night and we were having some fun and we went and did this little artsy thing.
This is the bank.
Creating something.
It's a bank.
It's a bank. It's something that we did as a couple's date night. It was in the art studio.
For our 36th anniversary.
In Houston for our anniversary, on our anniversary weekend trip.
But and so that was a really good example of how our expectations could lead us to disappointment, because things don't always turn out the way you planned. So what do? When things don't go as planned, you have to add to it and make it better. So this is what I have done to make him more aesthetically pleasing. And Gil said that he thought that she looked really cute.
A lot better. And
so I'm going to put some clear coat over it. So rather than throwing this away because it didn't meet our expectations, we just added to it and made it better. And that's what we have to be willing to do with our relationships.
And if you know anything about us, you could probably imagine who's the gold and glitter and who's the gray. So I'll just say that this is a blending. This is just like what your marriage is like. It's a blending of two different things. And two different people coming together to create one thing. And you'll notice that there's some gold mixed in there and there's some gray mixed into the gold and some gold mixed into the gray. Well, guess what? Your marriage is going to be just like that. There are going to be some areas that get mixed in to each other that you're going to have to work out. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be bad or it's going to be unnecessary.
And it's not going to be perfect.
No, but it is a blending of the two shall become one. That's what the Bible talks about it. The two shall becoming one. Well, we were talking about, the last point that we were talking about is having a thriving in your relationship because it has to be Christ-centered. That is something that we believe at the nucleus and at the foundation of our relationship, and what we believe when we work with couples is God has got to be the center.
And what does that look like?
We talked about it being spiritual warfare because God is going to show you things about your relationship and about your spouse and your significant other that there's no other way you can find these things out, because there may be things about Renee that she is even unaware of, and things about me that I'm unaware of, because they are blind spots. There are things that about us that we have no idea that is impacting our relationships. But when you have someone who is have a for real relationship with God and is seeking God on your behalf on a daily basis with prayer, interceding, and reading the word, and there God is going to show you things about them